Good evening, folks. Welcome to the annual town meeting. Thank you all for joining us here this evening. For those of you who are joining us at home, welcome. Welcome your participation. Before we start, I wanted to ask you to join me in acknowledging the passing of Bob Nemeth, longtime Holliston resident, citizen, volunteer, wonderful, wonderful person, and who passed away since our last meeting. So join me for a moment of silence to remember Bob, if you would, please. Thank you. Thank you. My thoughts go out to Bob's family on behalf of all of us here this evening. Before we get to hear from the Select Board and the FinCom, I'm going to ask you to consider the consent agenda. For those of you who are regulars here, you understand that it's been my practice to take up and gather together articles that are generally considered routine. They don't engender debate usually, and they appear annually. And so in the interest of time, I'm going to take them in the form of a consent agenda. And if on any particular article that's included in the consent agenda, 7 citizens rise and indicate they'd like to have it separated and considered for debate, I'm happy to accommodate that. So the articles to be considered included in the consent agenda are as printed in the warrant. Article 3, to authorize the treasurer collector to sell foreclosed tax title properties. Article 4, tax work-off program. Article 5, amend the interest rate per annum. Article 6, amend the income requirements. Article 7, veterans tax exemptions. Article 8, personal property exemption. Article 9, revolving fund spending limit. Article 13, adoption of Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Section 2B. And Article 28, general bylaw change from town administrator to town manager. The motion is to approve the articles in the consent agenda as those articles are printed in the warrant. Is there a second? Is there any discussion on any of those articles that I've included in the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? So voted. Those articles are dealt with. Article 1, to hear the report of the Select Board. The motion is moved that the annual report of the town for the 12-month period of time ending January 30th, 2025 be accepted. Is there a second? Thank you. We'll hear from the Select Board, please. Ms. Hine?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay in the back? Okay. Welcome. Before I present the report of the Select Board, I'd like to introduce a special town meeting member tonight. Frank Gervasio is Holliston's new incoming town manager. He is due to start on June 1st. Frank, could you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. As the policy-setting executive body for the town of Holliston, the Select Board acts in a responsible way for the benefit of the taxpayer and resident in Holliston. Over the past 12 months, we have met 36 times for a combined total of more than 100 hours with a thorough and deliberate process, hybrid public meetings, and community engagement efforts. With all of those, the Select Board prepared the warrant presented to town meeting tonight. Throughout, our focus has been on the needs of our community and strengthening Holliston for the future, with projects, initiatives, and priorities developed over months and years. We follow state and federal laws in our planning. We seek state and federal funding sources for our projects. We collaborate with Holliston's state and federal representatives. And we work to improve communication and engagement with residents to keep you informed and incorporate your feedback. This is a significant priority for the board moving forward. The progress made by approving the articles tonight serves the greater good, and I am proud to present the warrant for your consideration. Thank you to the many boards and committees, department staff, and residents who participate in the Select Board's process. Tonight's warrant is collaborative in the making and represents diligent planning and effort to improve services, quality of life, and meet future needs of the residents of Holliston. The Select Board's agenda over the past 12 months has been centered on a number of key projects and initiatives moving the town forward, namely the DPW project, the Factory Pond Dam and Bridge repair, the Norfolk Street water main replacement drainage and sidewalk project, downtown sewer, economic development activities, the Town Manager Act, which included the competitive and successful hiring process for Holliston's first town manager. Again, welcome, Frank. I'd like to take a moment to share a brief update on several of these. The newly appointed Sewer Commission has been hard at work over the past few months, diving deep into funding sources to lift the capital costs of designing and constructing the system off of local taxpayers using state and federal money. Progress there is being made, and the town will learn later in 2025 this year whether a $7 million grant application to a state program is successful. The Commission has also been engaging with downtown property owners and the town's economic development people to explore benefits and potential downsides of the sewer project. All indications at this time point to a strong need and a desire for sewer in the downtown commercial district, but the Commission's work continues in this area. Economic development activities have changed in Holliston in the past few years, with new efforts to strengthen opportunities for growth and better support existing businesses. The town hired a part-time economic development coordinator, initially with a state earmark, to pay for the position, and now through the operating budget. Our coordinator is halfway through a 3-year work plan to date that focuses on outreach to businesses, encouraging local shopping, and attracting new businesses. A few highlights of the past 18-month successes include visitor maps throughout the downtown, a visit from the Boston 25 Zip Trip program to promote local tourism, and an expanded Farm Day event. The Factory Pond Dam and Bridge Repair Project is ahead of schedule, on budget, and likely to return much, if not all, of the money appropriated by town meeting last October. Many thanks to the dedicated town staff who work closely with our state partners to secure as much grant funding as possible to nearly eliminate the cost of the repair from the local taxpayer. In October, town meeting approved a $50,000 local match for a state program that is sending $200,000 federal dollars to Holliston to improve the Whitney and Washington Street intersection. The design work has just started, and in addition to intersection improvements at Washington and Whitney, the project will likely include a sidewalk extension from Locust Street, filling a gap in the town's sidewalk network, as well as improve the rail trail crossing on Washington Street. When we have the design plans in hand, the town will return to the same state program for construction costs to complete the project in the near future. Has this slide been up the whole time? Well, then I should ask for forgiveness, because I did not ask for permission to share this is my mother. She's in the back there. I didn't think you were coming tonight. She didn't give me forgiveness, so that's the problem. I intend to highlight a few critical articles in the warrant for your special attention tonight. But before I do, I would like to tell you that outgoing Town Administrator Travis Ahern left the town of Holliston in very good shape, with strong multi-year budget forecasting, strong reserve funds, and deliberate, careful planning to address future fiscal challenges. Through Travis Ahern's professional skill and financial expertise, the town handled a difficult budget this year without reduction in services, while preparing the town to make progress on its priorities in this upcoming fiscal year. Tonight's warrant asks for town meeting's approval to continue progress. I would like to state clearly that there are no financial alarm bells ringing in the town of Holliston. We are well poised to hand fiscal and operational management of the town to incoming town manager Frank Gervasio, who has the financial experience from his career working at the state's Division of Local Services and as assistant town administrator in neighboring Medfield. I asked town meeting to trust the past 4 years of the town's budget process, and to trust the select board's process for advancing goals and priorities in fiscally responsible ways. As we look to start fiscal year 2026 on July 1st, with Holliston's first town manager ready to go, I respectfully ask town meeting to approve the articles presented tonight so progress can continue. The request tonight to enter a 3-year lease-to-own agreement for a town street sweeper is triggered by increasing contract costs and unmet needs with our current model for contracting services. Street sweeping is more than fall leaf pickup here in Holliston. Our downtown commercial areas are high-traffic areas that need regular sweeping, and a street sweeper responds to road washouts and other emergency cleanups and is required to comply with the town's stormwater management permit. The town follows a 5-year capital improvement budget plan to forecast future project and equipment needs. Delaying progress on projects and delaying equipment purchases exposes the town to cost escalation through inflation and other factors, ultimately costing the taxpayer more, as we have heard recently from the town's facility manager on the Adams School roof project, and why you'll see in the capital request an additional $750,000 included in the article to complete the roof project this summer. The requests listed in the article represent those from the capital improvement plan that were collaboratively reviewed by staff and the capital subcommittee and presented to the select board before the warrant was finalized. There are additional changes that you'll see in the finance committee recommendations. However, I'm here to state that those did not follow best practice process and will need the finance committee to explain to town meeting, which I'm sure they will do in time. The DPW project is approved by voters because the buildings are long past their useful life and because the select board has shown its commitment to keeping voters updated on the project as it advances. This is what we're here tonight to do. You see the request tonight because the intended cross-street site has proven difficult to obtain from land court, and there is diminishing confidence in construction starting for a new facility in time to replace failing buildings. The town of Holliston is faced with rising construction costs on this project, as are all communities. We have limited options and further deteriorating conditions on the current buildings which are beyond rehabilitation. We must take action to prepare for failed or critically unsafe buildings while also continuing to explore site options and additional project feasibility. The select board is taking the responsible step tonight to ask town meeting to repurpose previously approved $7 million from the capital expenditure fund for the reasons stated in the article before you. Although the select board has discussed the DPW facility project numerous times at recent meetings and a public forum, we did ask our consultants, Weston and Sampson, to have a representative here tonight. If technical questions come up, Weston and Sampson is ready to respond. I think I'm going to take that as forgiveness. This is the question. This is the photo I needed permission for. I got a thumbs up. Okay. Sidewalks are consistently and repeatedly supported by voters. The town has made real progress repairing and reconstructing our network of sidewalks and ramps, prioritizing the downtown areas and around each public school, Blair Square, and access to the rail trail. These are places with higher number of vulnerable users and potential conflict with other road users. They are areas visited by people on foot or bike every day of the year, in all weather, for all different reasons: shopping, errands, commuting, recreation. The select board is committed to making Holliston accessible and safe for people of all abilities. It is an equitable way in which we make Holliston welcoming and safe for everyone. After not funding the repair program fully in fiscal year 2024 and not at all in fiscal year 2025, the select board is asking tonight for $1 million to further reduce the town's backlog to the repairs needed. Like the school roof project in the capital budget, completing work now saves the taxpayer inflationary costs later. A modern network of sidewalks is an equity issue, a quality of life issue, and a safety issue. And ADA compliance is not something that the town can delay. It is the law, and compliance has very real benefit for people with disabilities who live in, work in, and visit Holliston. The town engineer was first presented as a cost savings addition to town staff by town staff several years ago, with an eye to the programmatic stabilization fund to kickstart the position. The decision to present the position to town meeting was deferred while the town moved to a regional dispatch command center and advanced life support ambulance service in the past few years. The priority for the use of the Programmatic Stabilization Fund was these two services. Today, however, we have realized the cost savings of both, and the Programmatic Stabilization Fund is repaid and ready. As was intended with its creation in October 2022, the fund can cover the cost of the town engineer position in 1 year, with cost savings through the new position paying the fund back in the next year. Currently, the town is losing out on cost savings without a town engineer. We pay more for the service through consultants, as well as miss out on opportunities to apply for state and federal grant programs without this service in-house. Not having the technical engineering services in Holliston this winter to complete an application for the state's culvert replacement grant program means that the town has to ask for local taxpayer dollars to complete this critical project instead. This request tonight can be found in Article 19 as a critical need to maintain the current operations at the DPW on the Arch Street site through a culvert replacement. With this, I conclude my report to town meeting. I thank you for your time and attention. I thank you for being here tonight, for carefully deliberating the articles, for listening to the comments that you're about to hear, for weighing the pros and cons of all, and hopefully agreeing to make the progress that the Select Board's put before you in this warrant. And at this time, I respectfully ask that you turn your attention to the Finance Committee Chair, Vin Murphy, who will present the report of the Finance Committee to town meeting. Thank you.
On to Article 2, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. Chris? Okay. So welcome. Thank you, Tina. So first thing I want to just say was a budget process. We went through it. It was a relatively easy budget process compared to other ones. Last year we had to do with override and other things like that. So just to highlight a couple of things, the revenues and sources. So property tax levy is increasing by $1.47 million, which is in line with 2.5%, Prop 2.5. New growth, we're budgeting for $325,000. Net state aid is going to be $11.02, which is a $495,000 increase from last year. This is the House figure. Now, the Senate could decrease it. They usually don't, but we anticipate them leaving it like it is. They might give us more, but maybe not. Local receipts, we're budgeting $175,000 increase from last year. So the total omnibus, this is the fine point numbers we're going to be voting on, is $77 million. Now, this has increased $2.5 million from last year, which include the override that we all voted on, plus the money that came in from surplus for special ed. Now, the school's budget increased by $1.4 million, or 3.26. Most of it was related to salaries, which they, as you may know, they had their contract negotiations, so it's all embedded in their all increases now. Keefe Tech, though, did go down. That's because the number of students have decreased. Now, the thing that we have to be aware of in the horizon is that they're building a new school. They got permission from the state, and they're in the reimbursement, so that will impact us in the future. A couple of things that did also increase are employee benefits went up by $353,000, and Middlesex County Retirement System is going up $339,000. So. Other post-retirement, OPEB, the infamous OPEB that we've spoken about in many years, we've kept it the same as last year, 1.25. Now, this is slightly lower than our historical, which was 1.5, but we felt as though where it is, and plus we've seen gains and everything from the investments, so we could sustain 1.25 and still be at a good position and be fully funded by the target date of, I believe it's 2035. Couple articles of note. Snow and ice deficit. We're recommending at this time to postpone it. There's $205,000. The recommendation in the article is to move money from the reserve fund. We're a little hesitant because that'll leave us only with about $99,000. We don't know what could be coming. We don't anticipate things, but we're worrywarts here on the Finance Committee, so we'd like to say, let's hold off. We'll worry about it at year end, and will allow us money to move things around if there's something that comes up between now and the end of the year. Also, Article 17, we're all in favor of having the lease for the street sweeper. However, we want to just say, let's just appropriate the whole entire money rather than coming back every single year for the additional monies for the lease. It's silly because if we're saying yes to the lease, we're going to be purchasing the equipment at the end of the term. Let's just appropriate $344,487 now rather than wait and do it every single year. Now, a couple notes. This warrant article is slightly different from the one we spoke about than the one that's in the warrant. The reason was because we added a couple things. If you notice, a couple things are school supplies. That was from the schools coming in. They need a couple additional things for scheduling and things like that. And the water department is $110,000 for 2 pickup trucks. So we recommended favorable expenditure of those funds. Now, it is different, and I don't think it's bad practice, as we were pointed out by the select board chair, but we received the information, our subcommittee, the capital subcommittee received information from the schools and also from the water department. We feel as though that's sufficient and it makes sense to do it. Next thing, Article 19, we spoke about that, Tina spoke about that a lot. We're well aware of the situation going on with the whole Cross Street. Ideally, we'd get Cross Street, but it's land court, and who knows what happens in land court. So our concern is to recommend the whole entire $7 million. So what we're saying at this point, we're recommending $1 million, $500 for the culvert, and then additional $500,000 for whatever reason, but to help for the DPW. Plus, if there's additional things that come up between now and then, we have October meeting and we have the fall May meeting. So at those points, the select board can come and ask, let's repurpose additional funds, rather than blank check of saying the $7 million, which was originally earmarked for the purpose of building a new DPW facility. Now, I understand, yes, all these different things relate to the DPW facility, but it could be pouring good money into bad, and I think it needs to have some sort of check on it. The committee agreed, and that's why we're recommending only using $1 million of the $7 million. Next, Article 21. We thoroughly agree their sidewalks need to be repaired, there's new sidewalks, but the original working group stated they wanted to use free cash, not CapEx monies. Usually free cash is used and dispersed in the fall, not now in the spring. So we understand there's some projects that could take place this summer, so we're saying, okay, let's go ahead, let's do $500,000, let's come back in fall, in October, we have the free cash and we'll do additional monies at that point for the additional sidewalks, ADA compliance, and et cetera. Town engineer. There was another issue. So with the town engineer, our concern was it's coming from the Programmatic Stabilization Fund. The purpose of the Programmatic Stabilization Fund was to start projects that can generate revenue or other things. So our concern with using the whole $135,000 for the Programmatic Stabilization Fund is this does not actually reduce or generate revenue or reduce specific costs that we can say earmarked. All the costs that this will be reducing relate to capital expenditures. So we said this needs to be added to the omnibus budget, the main budget in somebody's department. We're all in favor of doing it. We just don't think the funding should be coming from the Programmatic Stabilization Fund because monies are earmarked and going to be paid back. For example, the ambulance service. Once we get that up and fully running, we'll be putting money back for the ambulance service. That was not what we expect to happen with the town engineer, so we're recommending delaying this and bringing that town engineer into one of our departments in the budget for next year. Or we can come and do it in October if so desired, if we foresee it and we see we have money for that. So next line, Article 24, we met with the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, and they told us everything that they are recommending. So we said in the article in the warrant, we're going to make a recommendation, and we are recommending favorable action for everything listed underneath the article. So lastly, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all the town employees, town administrator's office, the treasurer's office, the accountant's office. Special thanks to acting town manager, assistant town manager, Kathleen Buckley, who's been wearing 2 hats for the last several months, the treasurer, Chris Hamans, town accountant, Gina Patel, and the former town manager, who was probably enjoying himself, Travis Ahern. And thank you to all the department heads. You put a lot of work into doing the budgets, and we appreciate your hard work. And thank you for all the volunteers who serve on the committees. Thank you.
Yeah, good. All right, for purposes of the record, I'm going to ask us return to Article 1. We had a motion made to hear from the select person that we've already heard from. Is there a second to receive that report? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, so voted. In respect to Article 2, we've heard the report. The motion was to receive the annual report of the FinCom. Is there a second for that? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, so voted. As a result of the consent agenda, we're going to advance beyond the next several articles to Article 10, unpaid bills. This article is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a transfer from available funds a sum of money for unpaid bills from prior years or take any action relative thereto. I'm happy to report there are no known unpaid bills of the prior year, so the motion is moved to indefinitely postpone Article 10. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of indefinite postponement, say aye. So voted. Thank you. Article 11, current fiscal year transfers. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money for the purpose of supplementing various town accounts of the town's fiscal year 2025 annual operating budget previously voted by the town under Article 15 of the warrant for the May 13th, 2024 annual town meeting, or take any action relative thereto. And the amount suggested is respect to snow and ice. The explanation is snow and ice is legally allowed to run over its annual appropriation of $250,000 and be corrected in the spring. The 2024-25 ran over budget in early February with numerous storm events. The reserve fund balance for 2025 after this article and previous use would be $99,604 that you heard Mr. Murphy reference, to be used by the FinCom between May 7th, 2025 town meeting and the end of the year. So the motion is move to raise and appropriate from the town's reserve fund $205,000 for the purpose of supplementing various accounts of the town's fiscal year 2025 annual operating budget previously voted by the town under Article 15 of the warrant for the May 14th, 2024 annual town meeting. Is there a second? Select Board want to be heard?
FinCom.
No. FinCom? Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to indefinitely postpone this. As I mentioned, we in the FinCom would like to have that money reserved so we can make sure we have enough money to cover extraordinary things that may happen between now and the end of the year. So we also have the ability to move monies around from budgets. We have, quote unquote, as Ken likes to call it, superpowers, and it's baked in the whole legislation, the state and everything like that. So with the select boards and our approval, we can transfer money between budgets. So we just don't want to be held up and held for the 205 right now. Give us the ability and it will get paid off, so we don't have to worry about it. Usually, the last time we did it, it was small amounts, but 205 is a lot, so.
Is there a second to the motion to definitely postpone? Okay, that's open for discussion. Anybody wish to be heard? Seeing none, then we'll move first to vote on the motion to indefinitely postpone, having been made and seconded. All those in favor of indefinite postponement, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And that carries. That article is indefinitely postponed. Article 12, to amend the Consolidated Personnel Bylaws, Section 29, Job and Wage Classification Plan, to see if the town will vote